So in one of my last videos, someone commented that the choice of me having this small car, this old Smart 4.2 car, would render everything that I was saying in that review pretty much useless. And while I thought that was a funny conclusion of my choice of a car making all of my reviews basically useless, was kind of funny to me. So it was a really weird coincidence that I chose a small backpack for my next review. And while I really like this small form factor and I was craving a small form factor, I am probably not the target demographic because to some degree this small backpack failed me. This is the Wexley Sheldrake 22 liters, so not a sub 20 liter backpack. Alright, before we continue, I might need to clarify what I meant by a small backpack, because this is a 22 liter backpack, so it's not small, and it's definitely not, in terms of specs, a sub 20 liter backpack like I mentioned in the introduction. However, the style of this backpack is a little bit like the Western Rise Voyager backpack, where you have two compartments, one in the front and one in the back, that I somewhat mistaken in terms of how I utilize them. I will get to that in the negative section, but because these two compartments are the way designed inside this backpack as they are, just like in the Western Rise Voyager backpack, I don't consider this a 22 liter backpack. I was cramping in all of this stuff, but more importantly, I would consider this maybe an 18 or a 16 liter backpack, to be quite honest. Again, I was able to fit a lot of stuff in here, but it is so cramped and the way it is designed that I feel it is not a 22 liter as they specified in the product page. But again, I consider this 18, maybe 16 liters. And one of the benefits of this, let's say, smaller backpack is, although there are a lot of items inside, it is very comfortable to carry around. And although everything is kind of squished together in a way and very tightly packed, because it is so tightly packed and because it is so compressed, it feels very streamlined and the bag feels extremely good on my back. And I really enjoyed carrying it around. Before we go into what's inside this bag, I wanted to show you that due to its slanted bottom, this backpack does not stand on its own. Alright, I kind of overloaded the bag, so let's go into what I have inside this backpack. So as I said, I overloaded it, so let's take a look what I got inside. In this front pocket, I have the Bellroy pencil case, a Lark Purvis water bottle, that's the 680 milliliter size, Evergood Cap 2 liters. In the front here, my Tactical Geek pouch with the extended EDC. In the back pocket, my knock-free split keyboard, SSD and cable, and my MacBook Pro 14-inch M3 Pro edition. And as you can tell, I was able to fit a lot of items, but they were really cramped inside and was definitely overpacking this bag quite a lot. Again, I was able to fit everything inside, but it was extremely packed and extremely cramped in a way that I kind of fear that I would kind of, overly crush some of the items. Yes, this is a mechanical keyboard, but this was pressing against my MacBook Pro. So that was something where I was a little bit hesitant about. All right, you have seen that I was able to fit a lot of items and also a lot of bulky items into this backpack. And then you probably wonder why I mentioned why I personally perceive this not as a 22 liter backpack, but rather an 18 liter or maybe even a 16 liter capacity backpack. I mean, I even need to carry a sling bag in addition to this backpack. So now, why would I consider this 18 liter or 16 liter backpack? If you have watched my Western Rise Voyager backpack review that you can see in the info tab above, you maybe know that I mentioned that the layout of the two main compartments, so the front and the main compartment in the middle basically, is a little bit structured structured in a way or designed in a way that to me was a little bit unusual. And the same holds true with this backpack from Wexley, because with, let's say, regular backpacks, you have a main compartment that is in air quotes fairly big and gives you a lot of room to kind of put all of your items inside. And then you have like a smaller little front compartment to organize all of your stuff, maybe have some smaller items in that compartment. And with this backpack, it is designed in a way that you could perceive it that both of these compartments, the main compartment and the front compartment, are basically the same size. But the back compartment that usually is considered, let's say, the main compartment, that also has the laptop slot. So at first, when you open it up, you perceive it as a laptop slot and the front compartment being the main compartment. But in actuality, the way the back compartment with the laptop slot is designed, it is tight at the top and then kind of has this wedge shape where it gets bigger at the bottom. So you basically have the main compartment in that slot where the bottom part is actually fairly big, but the top part kind of narrows down into this wedge shape. So if you want to put anything bigger in that main compartment or that back compartment, let's call it that way, you kind of have to wiggle it through the tighter top space to get your bigger item into that wider area at the bottom. So when I was putting for example, my Evergoods Capsulator in that, I had to kind of wiggle and squeeze it through the thinner part of the top to have it enough space at the bottom, which gives me the perception of the bag not having that much capacity. Then again, on the front compartment, because the bottom part is kind of wider, it also takes away space from that front compartment. So in essence, basically all of the stuff that you put inside take away room from the other compartment and gives you that perception of the bag not being as, having enough volume as you might want. And therefore, it also somewhat forces you to pack according to the layout of the bag. So again, I was kind of experimenting with having my cap 2 liters in the front, but then the back compartment wouldn't be as spacious, and my keyboard, and granted not many of you would carry a keyboard, had to be very carefully squished into the back pocket, and I don't really want to call it main pocket. And then my laptop and the keyboard were kind of pressing against each other and squishing each other basically too much. While then at the bottom of that back compartment, there was still a lot of space to some degree. And when you do it the other way around, put the Evergoods Cap 2 liter in that back pocket, then first you have to squeeze it through that narrow part at the top. But then once it is at the bottom, it takes away space or some volume of that front compartment. So again, you can fit a lot of items, and you probably could say it is a 22 liter backpack. But due to the experience, how you load it up and how difficult it sometimes is to get stuff inside or outside, and everything is very tightly squeezed together. Personally, I perceive it as a 18 liter backpack, or I would recommend it as an 18 liter backpack and not the advertised 22 liters. Alright, let's talk about my verdict, the pros and the cons of this Wexley Sheldrake 22 liters. As I've mentioned in the introduction, I went into this review thinking this would be a sub 20 liter backpack. I didn't think that it is a sub 20 liter backpack, but I perceive it as a sub 20 liter backpack. And I think that is the most important takeaway of this review. Wexley advertises this as a 22 liter capacity backpack, and I am able to fit many items inside this backpack. Also a lot of bulky items that probably many of you do not carry around on a daily basis. So with that in mind, from a technical standpoint, I think, or I believe, Wexley isn't lying. It is 22 liters. However, from a perspective of usability and loading it and unloading it, I personally, with my personal loadout of a lot of bulky pouches, a lot of tech items, I do not perceive this as a 22-liter backpack. This is due to the way it is designed, and this is not a design flaw, it's just something different. Just like the Western Rise Voyager 25-liter backpack, where I said I was kind of confused about the layout. This is a similar design where you have basically two pockets, two compartments that are sharing this space of 22 liters. Let's kind of define it that way. You see, with regular backpack designs, right, you have a big main compartment and then a smaller front compartment with some admin pouches that basically is for quick access or smaller items. And then sometimes you have a laptop slot additionally in the back. Sometimes, like with some bags from Evergoods, like the Panel Loader Classic or Able Carry Daily, for example, the laptop slots are in that main compartment, the bigger main compartment, right? And with this bag, or for example, the Western Rise, it's a little bit different. The front compartment, like on this bag or on the Western Rise, is a little bit bigger. So when you open it, you kind of perceive it as, oh, okay, this is the main compartment. Then you open up the back compartment and you see the laptop slot and you kind of think to yourself, oh, okay, this is the laptop compartment. And then you kind of pack it out that way and you think the front compartment is your main compartment. You pack it out and then you think, oh, that's not enough space. And then you put your laptop in and suddenly you realize, oh, hold on, that back pocket is only like thinner and the whole compartment is wedge shaped, so thin at the top but kind of opens up at the bottom, right? So then you realize, oh, okay, this back pocket is not only the laptop slot, but there is a lot of space at the bottom but kind of narrows, kind of shut to the top. So that is why you perceive it as smaller, this back pocket, right? So when you want to put in your Evergoods Cap 2-liter pouch, you kind of wiggle it into that, in air quotes, very thin top opening into the wider space at the bottom. And I mean this not in a negative way, but I don't have a better word to describe it. This kind of backwards thinking of how all of the volume is distributed is getting in your way a little bit. Again, you have space at the bottom in the back compartment, but getting bigger, bulkier items into that slot is a little bit more difficult. And once you have it in, it kind of bulks up into that front compartment, taking away some of the capacity in the front, not in a way that you cannot fit anything in, but in terms of that you kind of perceive it, oh, now there is space missing and I cannot put other items in that front compartment. So both of these compartments kind of get into each other's way, and for the lack of a better description, kind of overcomplicate how you want to load up this bag. Again, you can fit a lot of items, and I think Wexley is potentially correct with claiming it is 22 liters in capacity. I have no way to measure the volumetric capacity of this bag, but it's not as simplified to load your stuff in. And sorry that I sound like a broken record, because I don't want to be unfair to Wexley. As I said, I can fit all of these stuff that I also fit into other 22-liter backpacks into this Wexley Sheldrake, but it was much more cumbersome than on other bags that have a more, let's say, regular design. That is why I perceive it as smaller. However, once you have everything inside and the way this bag is kind of shaped with this slanted bottom, and for some reason I felt it was a little bit better distributed, all of that weight on my back. It actually felt more comfortable to carry around compared to other 22-liter backpacks. I do remember all of those items and other backpacks that have, in air quotes, a classic design of how you put your stuff in. And I do notice, for some reason, I perceive those bags to be just slightly less comfortable, and this to be slightly more comfortable when I was wearing it on my back. I almost did not notice it on my back. And I think this is attributed to the way everything is very tightly integrated into the bag. And as I said, you need to kind of figure out how to put that inside. And this bag forces you to adapt to its layout of how you pack it. But when you have everything inside, which can be cumbersome, it does feel comfortable when carrying around. The shoulder straps are nice. Yeah, and it feels streamlined in a way. The build quality also is really cool. And I think this bag looks amazing. So pros, build quality, great. Look great. Let's say all of those small compartments are okay. The comfortability in carrying it around was really good. But negatives, I don't perceive it as 22 liters. I would argue, I feel it is more in line of a 16-liter backpack. Although again, I can fit a lot of items inside. And because I perceive it as smaller, it is also a little bit cumbersome to load. It forces you to adapt to its packing style. Yeah, I'm torn. There are a lot of good things about this bag, but I think usability is really important. And because with my loadout, it's not as great to load and unload, I'm hesitant to 100% recommend this bag. If you don't carry as many items as I do, if all of those items aren't that bulky, if you only need maybe 16 liters in capacity, then this backpack is amazing because it is well made and it looks good. And if you don't need the bag to stand up on its own, then this bag is great. But if your loadout is like mine, maybe not for you. Anyways, what do you think about this style of compartments, of main compartment, front compartment distribution, as well like in the Western Rise? Do you like that? If you own one of these two bags, what do you think about them? Have you gotten around to get used to that kind of style? Let me know in the comment section below. And if you consider getting any of these items mentioned in this video, maybe even if you still consider getting this backpack, check out the links below. Those are affiliate links. With those you won't pay more, but you will support this channel with a small kickback of that sale. And if you do so, thank you very much. And I would really like to know, did you watch this video to the end? If yes, maybe comment turtle shell in the comment section below so I know you watched until the end. Alright, maybe check out the backpack review of the Western Rise Voyager in the video up here. YouTube thinks that you like the video down here, and help me to get to 70,000 subscribers by the end of the year by clicking this button up here somewhere. I see you in the next video, and maybe also check out my daily vlogs on my second channel. Thank you very much.